Hello, hello, dear ones, and welcome to this special presentation, this Tuesday emotional lunch break. Thank you all for being here on Black Love Day, Tuesday, February 13th. The first time I heard about it was yesterday from Nana Malaya, who acknowledged that this is a day before Valentine's Day, celebrated just for our people, for our love. I hope that you've seen our notice on social media celebrating our global superpower. Thank you all for being here. Community Healing Network, Ancestor Month. I am Jan Berger, the community manager, and joining us today are Nana Malaya and Valetta Molofsky. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, one of the things we do each and every week is we start off with a stress scale, just to let family know how are we doing with each other. So on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 meaning all is well, life is good, you're just chilling, and 10 is jumping out of your bones, just don't know what to do with yourself. Family, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment and putting your stress scale number in the chat to let us know how you're doing. I see Lucretia popped in with a 10. Oh my goodness, I hope that by the time that we have this family sharing this beautiful acknowledgement of ancestor time, which can be very evocative for people, many of us, like myself, have newly transitioned loved ones, and so they are new to the ancestral realm. And so I encourage you to breathe, maybe take a moment off screen if you need to, and hopefully those higher numbers, 5 and over, will come down by the time our time together ends. Our Cassandra, welcome, reports a 5. Our Jessica Harris is at a 3. Elder Harriet Tubman Wright reports a 3, and NN says 9, but right here at 5. So thank you all so much for being here. I'd like to introduce our special guest presenters for today. Sacred Space for the Ancestors. Nana Malaya's official title is Okumfo, Akua, Enum, Oparabea. This is a traditional title from the Akan people of Ghana. Nana has been ordained by the Yoruba family in 1970 and then into the Akan tradition in 1991. She considers herself an interfaith minister, bringing people together through prayer, dance, music, and song. Nana Malaya first studied the flower, which is a dance, and then the root, which are the religious traditions of many, many cultures. It started when she was forever changed when Catherine Dunham, dancer, PhD anthropologist, and traditional minister, introduced her to the dance and religious cultures of Haiti. A few years later, it was the Yoruba culture through Babatunde Olatunji. This continued as she traveled and performed throughout the globe. Nana Malaya is a multi-talented woman who we are blessed to call family. More and more communities like ours are requesting that Nana Malaya pour libation as she will do for us today. Nana Malaya would like our community to know about an event happening on communicating reparations. It is a workshop on Thursday, February 22nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find out more about this event at nbcit.org. I'll put that in the chat, as well as a registration link for those of you who may be familiar with our previous speaker, Jam. She is the convener of that organization, and we are blessed to call her friends as well. Let's see, meeting group chat. Here is the organizational website address, and then here is a particular link to register for that February 22nd date. Ooh, that tiny link didn't work. Apologies for that. It looks like it did the whole thing. Valetta Kabula Molofsky is the founder of the Glenn Edward Kuumba Literacy Foundation and cultural educator for the Harambe Cultural Center, a youth nonprofit. Valetta is dedicated to advocating for advanced African Black Caribbean wellness and excellence, with a passion for decolonizing Western literacy practices. Valetta seamlessly integrates storytelling and somatic movement to create more inclusive educational approaches. Currently pursuing a PhD in integrative social work at Saybrook University, Valetta focuses on trauma and mind-body medicine and holds a particular research interest in first-generation upper mobility, educational trauma, and Ubuntu therapy. Her commitment extends beyond academia as she actively obtains certifications in mind-body medicine and Africana studies, showcasing a dedication to a holistic, cultural, and spiritual informed approach. Her favorite quote is by Dr. Maya Angelou: "The more you know of your history, the more divine your power can become." Before we begin with our program for the day, I'd like to point your attention to our following events for Ancestor Month, and let me put our flyer in the chat. Let's see, just in case family would like to share this with any friends or family that are not on our mailing list. And that is not working for me. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Let me try that one more time. Okay, I'll attend to that a little bit later. It's not clicking in the chat for me. So that way, if you'd like to share any of those things. Thank you all again for being here, for being each other's liberation medicine. Please nestle in for ancestral mathematics, followed by a musical piece from Sunny Day entitled Ancestors. Ancestral mathematics. In order for you to be born, you needed 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 second great-grandparents, 32 third great-grandparents, 64 fourth great-grandparents, 128 fifth great-grandparents, 256 sixth great-grandparents, 512 seventh great-grandparents, 1024 eighth great-grandparents, 2048 ninth great-grandparents. Dearest ones, in order for you to be born today from 12 previous generations, you needed a total of 4,094 ancestors over the last 400 years. Think for a moment. How many battles? How many struggles? How many difficulties? How much sadness? How much happiness? How many love stories? Dearest ones, how many expressions of hope for the future did your ancestors have to go for you to exist in this present moment? I'm doing a little bit of math here so that we can properly welcome all of 94,162 ancestors that have consented to being here with us today. Thank you again so much for being here. I'd like to share just a little bit under a minute of a musical piece before we request Nana Malaya pour libation.
Ancestor, ancestor, take my hand, ancestor, lead me on, ancestor, let me stand, ancestor, I get tired, ancestor, I get weak, my nose I get warm, ancestor, through the storm, ancestor, through the night, ancestor, lead me on, ancestor, through the light, ancestor, take my hand, ancestors, and lead me on in my way.
Nana Malaya, please bless us with libation.
Blessings, everyone. Great to see you. Great to see you. I will reintroduce myself as Nana Malaya, Nana Enum, one who speaks in parables, Akua, Okumfo, Enum, Oparabea. I am the daughter of Mary Wilhelmina Brown, known to be from New York City, and Ebenezer Ray, known to be from Barbados, West Indies, as well as Ghana, West Africa. I am here representing all that ancestral math. I just absolutely love it. And as we welcome everyone to honor our ancestors, I just want to remind us that God is the ultimate ancestor if you believe that we're all children of God. So as I say the prayer today, and this is a non-denominational form of prayer, and you can say it in your own way about your own family at any time that you feel comfortable and so moved. I'm going to use water and I'm going to pour it into the plant. The plant represents our family, literally. Of course, if it was warm, where it's not where I am, they're threatening snow. And this plant is representing our tree. So think of the roots, and the roots, of course, is the beginning for all of us. The trunk of the tree, which would be at this point the soil, is of course the foundation of which we all stand. And then the branches, like the stems of this particular plant, represent all the branches wherever they are and wherever they might be. And the leaves represent all the children that at one time were just us. And then now, if we all have children and grandchildren and great grandchildren, which I have, then it represents all of them. And all the new seedlings and saps are for those, the next 7 generations at least that are to come. Water represents the combination and the connection between heaven and earth. And so water is a conduit. It's a conduit of electricity. And because it comes from the sky and comes down as precipitation, we know that it goes into the ground. It feeds everything that we need. We need it to drink. We need it to cleanse our bodies, our clothes, but also cleanse our spirits. So we're going to use this water because it does recycle and goes back to the sky. After evaporation and condensation, it comes back again. So I'd like, even though I might not be able to hear you, I'm going to say I go, and I'd like you to say I may. I'll say it 3 times because they say anything you do in 3s is on purpose. Once could be an accident, twice a coincidence. And it's a phrase that comes from Ghana that asks for God's attention. So I'm going to say I go, and I hear I may. I go, and I hear
Amen.
I go, and
Amen.
Now I'm going to speak Tree, Yoruba, and English, and I'm going to say to the pom pom Beijing Sanu, and then Kansa, yo, Sasiya Beijing Sanu. Basically talking about God, who is both the mother and father of the universe, and that everything has the God essence in it. This plant could not exist if it didn't have life energy. We would not exist if we had life energy. Anything that we consume and interact with has life energy. And that life energy is understood to be God's energy. You remember what was the Star Wars that says the force be with you. So the force be with us and with us in spirit. So I want you to think of the major last names in your family, and you can feel free to call them out, all the ones you know, your mother's and father's family. And I'm going to call out Rays and Browns and Williams and
Keys and
Skeets
Taylors
and
and
Durant. Go
Simpsons.
ahead, call them out.
Roberts,
William Burger,
Munford,
Call them out.
Lopez,
Blackley,
Call them out.
Max
Hey.
Burger,
Villa,
Ruby
Smith,
Burger,
Davis,
Angela Lucas,
Turk,
Ruth Whitfield,
Lucy Mae
Ruby
Ellis,
Whitfield.
Lucy Mae Smith.
And then those who recently have lost folks, feel free to call their names out, as you may have already done. I'm going to call up my Aunt Sarah. She came to me in a dream. She said, "You're always doing libation. You don't call my name." So I'm calling her name. She was deceased before I was born, but everyone kept saying, "You're just like your Aunt Sarah." You know, those folks would tell you that. So there's Aunt Sarah, Uncle James, my son, Charlie E.B. Daly Rucker, my sister, Ella Marie Ray. What about some ancestral departed as well as personal departed? I'm going to mention Ida B. Wells, Dr. Francis
Fannie Lou
Cress
Haven.
Welsing, okay, Fannie Lou, okay,
Harriet
Marcus
Tubman,
Garvey,
Shirley
Harriet
Chisholm.
Tubman,
Harriet
Judy
Tubman,
Newton,
Taylor
Beverly
Swift.
Mosquito,
How
Queen
did
and
G.
Queen
Woodson have
Nefertari, okay.
it?
All the Cleopatras, I understand there were 6, and they were all, of course, melanated women. Queen
Yeah,
Taini,
Santawa
Queen Nzinga,
from Ghana.
Santua, yeah.
Imhotep.
all presented by the Woman King, Nanny Helen Burroughs, and we just have so many women and men who are strong. Of course, Carter G. Woodson wanted us to have this particular month because it had Frederick Douglass's birthday in it. So we want to give honor to Frederick Douglass and also to Carter G. Woodson. And for all the other ancestors whose names we know and don't know, particularly for any children who have passed, whether it's from murder, whether it's from illness, whether it's from an accident, all children that go before their parents, we want to pray because that's a very awkward and uninsinkable time. And we also want to pray for the Ma'afa, all those folks whose names we don't know, in the middle passage. We want to pray for them. But we also want to pray for all the next 7 generations to come. So think of all the wonderful things that you do in your life and those that work with you, around you, all the folks that you pray for. Let's pray for all the things that we want to happen. They say as this year has come into fruition, to say the things you want to happen and actualize, and also to remember for all the things we are working towards, if you need to, get out of your own way and make sure you, as well as those you love in the community, can prosper and flourish for more than the next 7 generations to come. There's so much more to say about all the energies that exist in the world, all the things that bless us. So think about all the positive things that you need and want in your life and continue to not only pray for them, but actualize them. And they say singing is like praying twice. So I'm going to say, somebody prayed for me, had me on their mind, took the time to pray for me. Some of you probably know this song. I'm so glad they prayed. I'm so glad they prayed. I'm so glad they prayed for me. The ancestors, they prayed for us. We are praying for them. And we'll be ancestors longer than we'll be on the planet Earth. So may we be strengthened by their power, strengthen our lives. May we do the best we can as long as we are here. Ashe, I go. Amen. Thank you all. Yo. That's Nana no.
Santi Sana Tutanani.
Akira Hari.
Midasi pa.
That's.
No, that was extremely beautiful. I can see why more and more family members are calling you to pour libation and begin blessings. The Spirit is truly calling through you, and thank you so much for bringing our ancestors more fully in the room. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Valetta, please share with us.
Ujambo, everyone. I felt called before I get started to show you a picture. And I'm going to just see if I can do that now by sharing my screen before I share everything else with you. So let's see here. I want to share this picture. Can everyone see this picture right here of the chains?
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
So recently I had went to Tanzania. And in Tanzania, I experienced an ancestral cultural shift that my soul awakened. And so I wanted to share this picture because for me, it meant more than just looking at this museum or this past, or even just the metal. It meant that I was a part of something, that my soul is waking and it's constant. And I think we need to recognize that, like, it's a constant. We're constantly in it. Our history is constantly within us. The grief, the sorrow, the joy, the pain, the loving stories are always with us. So as I go through this, just recognize that my soul is always awakening whenever I visit Mother Africa, whenever I step and I put my feet on the soles. And I just want to take you on a journey with me on that. So I'll be sharing this presentation with y'all as y'all patiently walk with me. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always share it at the very end. Asante Sana. Okay. Pull that over to the side. It's a blessing to be with y'all. So today what I have is the constant soul awakening. And I just want you to take a moment to just look at their faces. Just look at them. Just imagine what they're probably going through right now. Just notice how they are standing. Notice their face. Notice their eyes. Just take a moment to just see if you can even capture their souls in their eyes. I want you to take a moment to capture your last farewell. Think about what happened in your last farewell when you were in the moment saying goodbye. Maybe you even said, see you later, thinking you were going to see that person later. What did it look like? What did it feel like? What do you remember? Do you remember touching them? Do you remember a connection? Do you even have any regrets? The Webster describes farewell as an expression used to state good wishes when one departs. And the term goodbye, it's a gesture of parting. So when I looked up these two different words, I was like, okay, there's goodbye and there's farewell. I know in my culture, we're saying farewell to our ancestors because we are thinking of celebrating with them. We're saying farewell, but we'll see you later. And there's a song that says, fare thee well, right? There's not a song where we want to say goodbye. There's a song that fare thee well because we want you to have a beautiful journey. And I wonder about that journey. What would that journey look like? It's interesting because when we say goodbye, it's a way that we communicate. And we hope, there's a hope that we'll see each other again. When we look at the spiritual context, some people say, I will see you in the afterlife. And then culturally, some of us connect that way as well. Interesting, saying goodbye, it's like, it's deep. It's such a deep connection. You just want to connect. I remember when I was connecting with some of my loved ones. For instance, my sister. I connected with her as she laid on the bed. Knowing that she wasn't going to come back was not present in my mind. I was connecting, singing, touching, feeling, remembering, being. That being that we are so wanting to be present with the loved one is so important and valuable to us. We be in that moment as a hollow bone. We are spiritual captures, capturing what we know, what we feel in the moment. There's an article that I read that Shorter said all phases of life eventually come to an end. And I thought about that. All phases of life, whether it's a job, right? Our relationships, maybe something in our life that we have to stop and we have to set good boundaries, it all comes to an end. And it's like, no, who wants to come to an end? Maybe you were just at the pinnacle, at the top of your life, and you were thinking, I ain't ready yet. I'm not ready. And yet, life's like that. Sometimes they take something that we love so much, and we're not ready. We're not ready to let go. This right here is a beautiful monument that was made in New York. And sometimes we make things because we're not ready or because we want to memorize a memory. I love that when I think of goodbye, it's an intimate act. It's conducive to our healing process. When we sit with someone and we share, sometimes we get messy. We share some things, some hidden secrets. And the worst thing is when you don't have the chance to say goodbye. I've experienced that. I've experienced it with my dad. I didn't get to say goodbye. And as someone with lived experience, I hated it. I also didn't get to say goodbye to my grandmother, but I got to see her a month before she passed away. So partially there was that goodbye and partially not. But to have goodbye ripped away from you, your choice taken away from you, is heart-wrenching because you're constantly looking, wanting, and closure just doesn't come. Interesting enough, it says when one is denied to say farewell, the grief process can be long. And it's been 2 years since my father has passed away, and I must tell you, it has been a long process. I am still grieving. I recognize I still have some anger. Not anger at the fact that he passed, the anger that it was taken away from me, the choice to say goodbye, the choice to be there, the choice to be present and say, Daddy, I love you. Thank you for giving life to me. Thank you for all the wonderful things. Think about the times that things have been stolen and taken away from you. Maybe that job, that promotion that you were supposed to get, and someone else took it. Maybe even the fact that our ancestors have always had to fight harder and their lives were taken away from them, shortened. COVID is a good example of lives being shortened and our goodbyes were stolen. We didn't have those moments because the hospital decided to change the way we as people get to celebrate life. Interesting enough, when you don't get a chance to say goodbye, there's this unrecognized trauma, and it begins to resonate in the bones. There's so much going on that you cannot sometimes celebrate the life of an ancestor because you're in the grief, because you are still awakened by the work that they've done in the community. You're awakened by the beauty that they have brought. Wade Shades, there's a book by Wade, Brianna, I believe their name is, and it says, each one of us has a moral duty to attend to our own griefs so that we can possibly engage with each other. I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking, wait a second, morally, like, yo, my grief is my grief. And when I'm ready to deal with it, I'm ready to deal with it. And if I'm not ready to deal with it, then that's okay. I'm not saying that Wade is not correct. What I am saying is that each of us individually need time to process. And it's beautiful because we have Ubuntu. I am because of you, you are because of me. And because of that, we have Ubuntu collectiveness. And we can heal collectively. And that's what's wonderful about Black folks. We collectively throw parties and we show what it's like to be an ancestor. And we know when it's our time that people will be partying too. I love from this research that I recently did, I was writing about how the phenomenon of ancestral celebration in Black people, shoot, the African diaspora people, we get down. We are like celebrating. We got Black joy coming out of our pores. Our skin is shining. Hey, there are all type of people. Let me tell you about the people I wrote about. I said, there's the Christian folks. There's the elders in white. Yes, I'm wearing white. I'm not an elder. There's also, you know, the groupies. The groupies out on the side. They sit on the side. They're talking about the people that in the coffin. saying how they died. We got those folks too, right? Shoots, we even got the mistress of ceremony and the pastor. And then we got the church folks just dancing and singing and like they like having church up in there. They like bringing down the walls. The walls be sweating, right? We so much joy. And then after all that, we don't build up an appetite. So now we got to have some service of food, right? So then everyone is trying out everyone's food and saying, girl, can I get that recipe? And honey child, don't you know I haven't seen you in a while? Yes, when we do ancestry, love, and joy, people come together. People we haven't seen in like 20 years, we see each other because ancestral love, light is real for us. In that moment, there are some wailers. They are wailing because they didn't get an opportunity to. So yes, our Ubuntu collectiveness, we got groupies, we got different groups, and that's okay. I love how I was doing also some more research. And in that research, it was saying that, I believe 1843, that the burial sites, that was the one thing that the slave owner did not touch, was the burial sites. They stayed away from that. Now I wonder about that. Why do you think they stayed away from that? Do you think they had a conscience? Or were they scared about what Black folks was gonna do next? We don't ever know. All we know is what our ancestors have taught us. And the wonderful thing about Black folks, let me say another thing. All of us up in here identify as one or another, as African diaspora or African, Black, Caribbean, what have you, biracial. We all come as together, but all of us are not equal. No, we're not equal because we all have learned different family systems. So that's why I don't like talking and saying I'm talking for the masses of Black folks. I'm talking about what I know. I'm talking about my culture. I'm talking about my people. And I'm telling you that my people know how to celebrate. We know how to celebrate. And I know this because at the age of 2, we would go from funeral to funeral to funeral. God forbid that show that says, I see ghosts. I saw ghosts in my house. My mama would have a whole picture frame of dead people in the house that I walked by. And those were some ghosts. At a 2-year-old body, I was like, oh, holy cow, I think I'm seeing something. That's the other thing about Black people. We know how to remember people, and we remember them in a way that is real for us. I want to take a moment to read this. I read this article, and for me, it reached out to me. Just take a moment to let me read it to you. It says, most people write me off when they see me. They do not know my story. They say I'm just an African. They judge me before they get to know me. What they do not know is the pride I have in my blood that runs through my veins. The pride I have in my rich culture and the history of my people. The pride I have in my strong family ties and a deep connection to my community. The pride I have in African music, African art, and African dance. The pride I have in my name and the meaning behind it. Just as my name has meaning, I too will live my life with meaning. So you think I am nothing? Don't worry about what I am now, for what I will be, I'm gradually becoming. I will raise my head high wherever I go because of my African pride, and nobody will take that away from me. You see, our ancestors, they had this and more: integrity, authenticity. Think about all the ma'at. They had that, and they gave it to each one of us. We are shining glory. We are light. We embody what we see ourselves and how they saw us. I think about this and I want to share you the ancestral light here for a moment. We are not going on the path. Let me see if I can make it bigger for y'all. I'm not sure if I can, but let's see here. I may not. Can y'all see it? Okay. We are not going on the past, but we honor our history. Africa,
our ancient home, on our ancestors. We are now frozen in the present, but we commit ourselves to working towards the greatest good for our people, our community, and our nation. We cannot predict the future, but we are optimistic, we are hopeful, and we are diligent in our pursuit of success. We believe in our own potential and abilities, and in the potential and abilities of our brothers and sisters to make the dreams of our ancestors had for us a reality. We dedicate ourselves to be our brothers and sisters' keepers. We dedicate ourselves to watch over our children. And we dedicate ourselves to the principles of the Nkuzo Saba now and throughout the coming year of 2023 and the years to come. I am Valetta, daughter of Glenn Edward, daughter of Di, granddaughter of Rosa, granddaughter of Bobby Jean, granddaughter of Tobe, granddaughter of Elijah. I say not their last names, for those are slave names, but I say their first names that they were given by their families. I, Valetta, was given my name by my father, Glenn Edward, and I raise my candle to my ancestor who just passed away. May he live in light and peace. May he live in love. And may all of our ancestors live and be free. Those who want to light a candle, please come up and light a candle for your ancestor.
So I wanted to share this with you. This was very personal. Last year, I did an ancestral lighting, and I feel very honored that I was asked to come and sit with y'all and share about ancestral light. Because all of us have a duty to continue to live the best way we can when we lose someone and we have to say goodbye. As I said earlier, we have customs. And as you can see here, I put that document about 1843, how they weren't touching or intruding. But also, I was reading that Black cemeteries where there were pipes driven in the burial mounds, and they believed that they were speaking a way to communicate. And I was wondering this one thing. All over the world, when we think about death, grief, life, goodbye, and love, there is a fragment that's left. And the fragment is a part of us, our soul. So when my father passed away, there was a piece of my soul that I felt that had been ripped out. Yet I know that he came to say goodbye to me. He came twice to say goodbye to me. And I didn't recognize it at the time. And there was that sorrow. There's this, I can't recall who the person is right now in my research that I did, but they say that there is a phenomenon in our Black souls, in our bodies, because we were from enslaved people. And that phenomenon is that we can actually feel the presence of our people when they're getting ready to go. That there's a conscious feeling in our bones that connects with us. And that we have this phenomenon which some of us don't even realize that we are light walkers. I'm a light walker. And that not only am I an empath, but I'm a light walker. Even at the age of 8, I had dreams that people were about to pass away. And I would go to my dad and I say, this person's about to pass away. And every time it came true, it was very scary for me. And later on, when I became probably 17, I was like, I don't want this gift anymore. And it was because I had dreamed about my dad dying. And it ended up being that it was my dad's old girlfriend who was my sister's mother. And I just didn't want the gift anymore because I feared. I had fear. And I say one thing to y'all. I don't know, as a kid, I always was scared of death. I don't know if it's because that my parents used to have me travel since I was 2 and I was scared of death. So I didn't like the smell of dirt. Now I love the smell of dirt. I'm an herb tender and I love smelling the thing of dirt. But I always remember how I wanted to be buried above ground because I was scared of the dirt and the dark, and I had so much fear. I didn't realize that there's a freedom with becoming an ancestor. There's a freedom of knowing that you lived a good life and that you left love and light behind for others to step in and do the same good work. And I hope that when I leave this world, that people will remember the legacy I left and that they will remember me in such a way that I've changed somebody, one person. If I change one person to remember that they are loved, if I've changed one person to remember that I see them, if I change one person to tell them that they are beautiful, if I've changed one person to tell them that God loves them just like he loved Lazarus and he wanted to raise Lazarus from the dead, if I can change one person to teach them to read because of the anti-literacy laws, if I can change one person to remember what it's like to be a mother, if I can change one person, that's all. That, to me, is living a good life. This page right here is empty. I just want us to take a moment. We are going to take 1 minute, and I want you to write down how you see your chapter. What is your moment like? What is it you want to be remembered by? What is it, the one thing you wanted to tell your ancestor that you didn't get to tell your ancestor? Behind me is a table. Jan was talking about the remembrance table, but we were talking and I said, I'm bringing table, yes, but I'm bringing a table for people to remember the best way they see. On my table, I have something, and I'll show you, I'll get a little closer. On my table, there is water, because water brings life. Also, there are rocks, and the rocks here are the rocks that me and my dad were able to walk on. We walked on these rocks for many travels, and I have been able to take rocks with me to Africa and set them down. I have also incense. I remember that the incense, I was thinking about in the Bible how they talk about incense, but for me, incense was being cleansed. I also have the anointing oil. The anointing oil is because my father is always talking about anoint yourself, right? Anointing yourself is a way of protection. And I've been anointing myself a lot more these days whenever I'm out with people because I want to be protected. The candle is the candle that I just recently lit for my dad. On February 4th was his 2-year anniversary. I want you to think about, again, writing a moment of your victory story that you want to do. And in that moment, I just want to share, I told Jan I wanted to share just a little bit of my dad's song, if y'all don't mind. It's called Death is Real. And then anyone who has questions, comments, or concerns, I'm open.
I'm Rusty Hicks, and my story isn't typical. As a union leader, I led a campaign that increased the minimum wage.
Okay. He wrote this song about 10 years before he died.
Just as sure as you leave, it's gonna come your way. I don't care how you got a grip on your lives. Death, it applies for me, for their sin. Oh, yeah, it is me, just as sure as you leave. They tell me the angels are there, and they tell me that the hell is true, and they're the one who'd be pulling on you. They wanna want you for heaven. Want you for heaven. So you better be ready. Choose where you stay. Because the day angels may just come for you. Oh, dear, it is me, just as sure as you need.
And if you want to hear more, you can. I'm actually singing with my dad on that song. We recorded it about 10, 15 years ago, and he wrote it, I think, when I was like in my early 20s. The last thing I just want to show you is these are the resources that you can utilize if you need to. There's the Black line if you're ever feeling like you want to talk to folks. We also have the Black man therapy and therapy for Black girls. And this book is called Grieving While Black. Thank you so much again for letting me be present with y'all today. And it's been a blessing. Jan?
Beloved Valetta, thank you so much for a powerful, informative, and moving presentation. Thank you so much. Dearest ones, might anyone have any questions for our beloved Nana Malaya and Valetta? Please do so by raising your hand, virtual or physical. Any reflections, gratitude, or thanks? Dr. Gloria, please share with us.
Valetta, that was absolutely beautiful, overwhelming, empowering. And you identified something in yourself that I've been dealing with, that ability to recognize death preeminently before it comes in somebody. And how do you deal with that? I find that scary too. And I thank you for sharing that to come to recognize that there are others who feel that, but it is scary. It is scary. I have to say that at times I don't know what to do with that. It's just that I would like for you to comment a little bit more about that in terms of how you manage that feeling.
Sure. So I worked in the medical field for a while, and I wanted to become a lawyer, but I ended up becoming a psychiatric nurse field major. And in that process, I decided to work for a skill facility. And during the skill facility, I had some spirits that I encountered. and it was a little bit intense. I was sitting in the room and we were getting ready to change an elder. And the woman starts saying that she saw her sister at the end of the bed. And the person was with me was like, I don't see nobody. And she starts saying that she saw blackbirds. And I said, she's getting ready to pass. And he's like, you're crazy. I said, no, she's seeing her sister. And now she said she just saw her mom. And now she's seeing, she's going to pass within 2 to 3 days. And she did. And I told them. And then another encounter happened, and it was a nurse. And the nurse that I was with it, and the nurse was talking, and it was something that she said. And I said, you're getting ready to die in a week. And she did. And I was like, okay, this is crazy. The powers start coming back to me. Literally, I got my graduate. So in 2012 is when I was going back into nursing. And I had another incident that happened to me where I was taking care of another woman, and she asked me for something to drink, and I went to go get it. And I got yelled at, and they said, why are you giving her something to drink? Her son wants her to die, and he doesn't want her to have anything to eat. And I said, that's against my conscience. And so I gave her that Coca-Cola. And I was sitting, I remember this to the T. I was sitting doing my homework in the office, and I felt this cold spirit touch my neck. And I said, I was like, oh my God, she just died. They're like, no, she didn't. I was like, yes, she did. She just touched me and she's dead. I ran down the thing and she was dead. And crazy thing, they didn't clean the room, didn't open the window, didn't let her spirit out. And that spirit followed me all around. And I called my mom and I said, I got all these different dead spirits now touching me in this facility. I don't know what's going on. And I realized that they all were starting to realize that I could feel them. And so it took one more time, because I told them already 3 times that people were going to die. And they wouldn't listen to me. It took the last person that came in and said that she started seeing the old lady that had just passed away, that lady was coming to her. And I said, she about to die too, and I'm leaving. I'm giving you my notice because you ignored me, and she is about to die too. And she died. And so I recognize that I have this power. I don't like it, but I recognize when I see it, I don't ignore it, and I just give people the information. The dreams that I've had are pretty to the T. When I used to have the dreams of exactly what was going to happen, they have been to the T. And it's just been scary. I did not foresee my dad's death the second time around. I foresaw my grandmother's death. And as for my sister, I foresaw that she was going to pass away too. Recently, I did not see the person that I grew up with. He shot himself in the head in May, and he was my brother. And we, it was pretty intense, and I did not foresee that because I was in Africa and I was distracted. But I kept thinking about him, and these images kept going, and I ignored it. And I wish I hadn't, because I believe that was my body telling me, Valetta, you need to check in. And I knew it, but I got busy and I couldn't text him in Africa. That's no excuse, but I recognized that. And so I was grieving between that and my dad. I hope that answers your question.
I guess I'm hearing you say increasingly you start to embrace it and be less fearful of it. And I have that. That's my experience right now. And it is scary when my stepfather died. My last visit with him, I saw that he was dying, and I said, he's dying, and everybody thought I was crazy. And he did. I mean, I've had several experiences like that, from a young child, but I've always kind of like, I don't want to deal with that. So being a physician, it has happened with a lot of patients where I could see it, and where it was just, it's hard. It's hard. It's just hard, kind of like, because it's scary. That power it's more than I kind of can understand. But I thank you for saying embracing it is learning to embrace it is really the gift, because it is a gift.
I also found out that I was a Yoruba woman. My mother is Nigerian, and she's from the Yoruba people. And so my mom wouldn't always talk about it, but she also has a gift. And my sister. So I started to realize and embrace that it was part of my cultural connection. And so I've done that. I also have another gift as well that's why I anoint myself before touching people, because the spirits can touch you and then seep into you. And so I'm very cautious about who I touch, when I touch, and what have you, and setting my set in a good mindset. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had to make sure that whoever was, if I was touching their feet or whatever, that it wasn't going into my baby, so that I can make sure that she was healthy. So yeah, thank you so much for, I believe there's Nana wants to say something. Hey, Nana.
Unmute myself. Yes, yes, yes. Well, blessings to everyone. And as this transition, I want to say that I have been working to embrace the gifts since I was a small child. I was 5 walking down the street, and I heard the ancestors giving me another name, which is Morning Glory. uh, I'm looking up in the tall buildings in New York, and they told me, we're not in the buildings, we're up here. And the only other up here was the sky and the clouds. And I didn't feel spooked. And so far, what has happened for me is I get the feeling when life is coming, when people are expecting and don't know. And I also tend to have dreams. The people come to me in my dream and let me know that they're leaving. And so I've chosen to take the responsibility to inform folks if I get the message, and or wait, because usually it's just a matter of days or weeks. And then when they pass on, most of the time people have been sick. So it's not something that is a shock, like an accident or a car accident or a plane accident. So those are a little harsher if I haven't seen that kind of drastic accident. And so it's been easier for me to just embrace. And I'm starting to recognize I have an aunt that lived to be 109, others who have lived to be in their hundreds, 104. And when I asked years ago, one of them, she was probably like in her late 80s. I said, how do you deal with people passing? And she said to me, it's just a part of life. And if you're going to live a long time, you're going to see a lot of people come and go. And it's not always an easy thing. I did a program called Good Grief last year where I had people gather where we could embrace the fact that we are grieving folks that we love, and that sometimes remembering funny stories about them, drawing pictures, writing poems, different things might actually help each one of us embrace. And then I was reminded we're going to be ancestors longer than we're going to be on the planet. And my aunt pulled open a drawer. This is the 109-year-old, and she said, I'd rather be collecting programs than be in one. So I figured if she could have a little laughter and joy. I think living a while has helped me to embrace it more. It's not always easy, but there's 2 things, and I put one in the chat, and I was reminded that passing, the death ends a life, but it doesn't end a relationship. And so as we've shared about the sacred table, most Black folks have pictures of their ancestors all the way up the steps or on a mantle. So there's a way in which we keep them with us. And I remember a little boy was at a family reunion with us, and he saw a picture. This is one of those old pictures, the person hasn't been around for a long time. And he called him Uncle B or something like that. And so everybody looked at him and they're like, who is that? You don't know. And he said, that's Uncle B. And they started giving, he was someone who had passed like in the late 1890s. So this little boy went around. He was only like 2 years old. But he said to us, he said, he comes and he sits at my bed every night. So I just believe that there's a thin line between coming and going, and like the movie Ghosts, Whoopi Goldberg started seeing folks and they were walking through walls and everything. And I've actually asked God to, hold my heart and make it so that it's something that I can accept if I see and move. Um, because I live a good life, and I know I'm not going to get out of here alive. So I just want to remember. But I'm going to share this too before I pass the baton. As much as we might like to, there's nothing to say when circumstances take our loved one away. No words, no song, nothing can do sometimes to express the sorrow surrounding you. People come and they share, and I'm glad that they're all there. So when someone dies, please be there for the long haul, because sorrow comes and goes around us all. We might not always be sad. We might not always be blue. Sometimes we'll crack a joke and do a dance or two. But when all is said and done, we keep loved ones in our hearts. And I wrote this for my son. I have a son that I lost, unfortunately, to tragedies in the streets. Someone decided to get rid of him. They were jealous of him, trying to get him out the way so they could get to the girlfriend. So that was a rougher one to get through. So I wrote that poem probably not too long after he transitioned. But I have had sightings. He came and told me, he said, "Don't worry about me. You the one down there with the knuckleheads." And as days keep going, I realize sometimes that might be true. They might be in a safer and much more peaceful place. And I pray for all their spirits. But thank you for sharing all of that. And God bless us all.
Ashe, God bless us all. Thank you so much. Dearest ones, we're 10 after the hour. I realize that some people may need to get going, and please, if you must depart, please know that we are with you. We are each other's liberation medicine, and thank you so much for being here for this special presentation of Sacred Space for the Ancestors. Valetta Molofsky, thank you so much for this presentation. This is our last call for questions for either Nana Malaya or Valetta. And while people may be considering a question or comment, Isaiah, I saw a hand go up. Please share with us.
I just wanted to say that it was very healing just to hear that, because I kind of resonated and kind of actually needed to hear it, because like my grandma had passed away when I was younger, and I had held on to it for a long time, a lot of regret, because she had called me like 2 nights before she had passed away and I didn't answer her phone call. So I kind of internalized that for a long time, and it was like one of the biggest things that I was trying to overcome, and like I didn't get that closure. Like she did come to me in my dreams, like after she had passed, like we were speaking on like this beach, and I couldn't hear anything she was saying, but I knew that she was talking to me. But it didn't really fill the hole, and it didn't really get like filled until a lot later in my life, and that's when God kind of revealed it to me, like at the right time in the right moment, and it kind of just pieced everything together. And when I had that perspective, like when I had a change in perspective about my grandmother's passing, and it kind of just healed such a deep part of my soul. That was and it was interesting. You said that when people die, it's kind of like a piece of you missing, and like I considered my grandma to be like my earth angel. She was like my last real piece of like divinity on this earth. So when she died, it kind of like was a catalyst towards like a negative downward spiral. And I did write some poetry off that. It's just a little short words. It says, "Grandma, my earth angel, held your death close, feared it from the beginning, told me you wanted to die, 12 years old, couldn't know why. In that moment, I knew it took a lifetime to live and an instant to die." So yeah, like it kind of just taught me the reality of death, and it was like a rude awakening. But recently God did reveal to me like the grand kind of like the grand scheme of it, and it kind of gave me a little bit of peace in my heart, because her death really had a meaning, and for a long time she was suffering, and when she did die, she died peacefully, and that kind of healed a big part of my soul. So I appreciate you, Valetta, for speaking on that.
Isaiah, please speak your grandmother's name into the circle for us today.
Deborah Weaver. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. We send both of you blessings.
Thank you so much.
Cynthia, please share with us. Oh, Valetta, did you want to comment? Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, part of the grief contemplations course that I'm in is that we all present ourselves as hollow bones. And as hollow bones, we are present and we show up. And there's death doulas, right? And part of the death doula is also being present and showing up. But I feel like in this space, we all can be hollow bones, and we can be hollow bones outside of this space for everyone, just by being a guest and listening and hearing. This space offers us an opportunity to do that sharing, but sometimes in a space, it's good to just sit and listen, acknowledge, because there's some trauma. And one of the things about that is that they don't talk about the trauma, they talk about the grief. They don't talk about the trauma and how it is ever present in the Black body, and how we are still enslaved in our mind because of the grief sets in and it's in our bones. And that's why I say we celebrate collectively so well when we're collectively with people. Individually, though, there are some of us who are in our bed eating ice cream or reading a book or whatever it is to get us through the day. And we still have to process that grief that is actually aligned with trauma. So that's why I gave y'all those resources, because I think it's important as Black folks, we have our elders, we have our spiritual counselors, we have this wonderful Tuesday get together, but also there's the more. So please do be gentle with yourself. Just please be gentle.
And also, if I can be heard, there's also different ways you can write things, draw things. There's actually herbs and spiritual baths to get through the process. So there's a number of things. One thing that helps me is I just realize that they're always there. So I know they're still hearing and seeing and participating in what's going on, as opposed to not being around. So I'm sure your grandmother is still watching you and seeing you and hearing you. And I go a little further. I talk to my folks sometimes like they're standing right there. And sometimes I'll feel my mother who's on the other and say, "Hey, Mom, how you doing?" And one time she went to all my performances with me, and I went to go see a musician she likes. And I told somebody, "My mother and I are going to go see so-and-so." And they looked at me and they said, "Didn't your mother pass?" I said, "Yeah, but my mom and I are still going to see so-and-so." And so I took her energy with me, and that has helped me to just embrace the energy of which they were here with, and realize sometimes I can still keep that as a way to be comfortable about their new status as an ancestor.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think that's exactly what I kind of took away from it. Like a lot of my earliest memories with my grandma, I remember she used to take a chair out into the rain and just like sit in the rain and look up. And it was so healing, because the day that I finally got the downloads and kind of just everything pieced together by God, like I was just sitting out by the rain, and it made me realize like I wasn't really alone. Like she was there with me along, like every time it was raining and stuff like that. Like, you know, she never really left me, you know. And that was probably like the most that realization was such a strong impact on my soul. Like I bawled my eyes out for like 30-40 minutes. It was so good. It was so good. It was so good.
And the last thing I'll say is that we live in a society that externally will tell us not to revere, discuss, and honor our ancestors. I live in Washington, D.C., and in every corner there's an ancestral shrine. And if you live in any city, there are ancestors, especially in white history, at every circle, at every, so I had somebody remind me, they said, they may tell you something, but what are they doing? So obviously they are respecting, revering their ancestors. So again, we need to continue to do the same. And I think we'll feel a whole lot better when we're not trying to forget and we can embrace all of what we've been through, including with them.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's just very important to recognize the people that kind of laid the groundwork and the foundation for like the seeds. Is that
Yeah, that's why
we
they
can
used to sing them songs.
exactly.
And we may be calling on you, Nana, to sing one more to sing us out. But first, I'd
Okay.
like to have Sister Ya'a share with us. Please come off mute. Thank you so much, Isaiah.
Greetings, and to say, and so many other Odabo, and I kind of forgetting, but I am Sister Ya. My namesake is Ya Asatawa. I am Ya Osavia, your favorite community epidemiologist. I just love this. I wanted to be. I can't show you, honey, because I'm looking here crazy because you know I'm working from home. But y'all don't know that, right? You know, I'm on my lunch break. Yeah, okay. But I had to do this. I am so grateful for you all. Thank you so much for sharing. I too am a spirit having a human experience. I too have experienced exactly what each of the ladies have talked about. I too have had to walk and talk with those who have transitioned from one life to the next. And I too have had to say I was crazy, but I had to yield to the spirit that spoke to me and was trying to give me messages for their wives, their loved ones. And I'd have to go to them and tell them, this person said this person said that. So I too, and my parents, both of them, and my grandmother. But I saw it as a blessing, honey. I didn't see it as a curse. My grandmother lived to be 102, but both my parents died, you know, in their 50s, 40s, early. But I too, as a child, talked to them, walked with them in their light as well as their death. And I always saw it as that was just what I was supposed to do. But what I want to add to this conversation is I'm also a community epidemiologist. I work in the clinical trials research side and epidemiology and all that other science crap. But what I really get at is epigenetics. And I really try to tell people, like you said, it's not just in the bones, honey, it's in the cells. We are bringing back the memories of the memory. Nothing ever dies, it's just recycled. And sometimes we come back, as you did that data earlier, sister, you jam with that, and bringing us back into the forefront. But I do have a question that my heart does feel heavy sometimes because I am so tired of Black folks having to yield to these little cultural others, these children who think that they're human and who are so, you know, just degrading. I call them the Romans. It's like they don't die until somebody kill them off. And I don't want to be that. But I'm wondering why we can't go to Wakanda and not be bothered with them. But that's not the way cosmology works. But can somebody please speak to why do we, as people of African descent, those of us who are from the Kemetic Nubian order, those of us who are children of the sun, why do we suffer so? What have we done wrong to the Most High?
It brings me back to the Bible. Like, you know, it's interesting, right? Because we were gone for a while, but we are the chosen. And I feel like we are still the chosen. We still can hold things. We can still process things. But the problem is that people don't see us while we're processing in our grief and our trauma. They like to use the word resilient. I hate the word resilient. We're not resilient. We are survivors of our circumstances. We have been challenged, yet we have been also, what I like to say, well developed in our culture because we had beautiful grandmothers, right? Some of us had wonderful mothers. Some of us was parents by other family members. Those family members taught us seeds, and those seeds were planted. We also became professionals of our practice, our cultural practice. Some of us decided to dwell in the Western world and get jobs and make money out of it. And some of us are doing it culturally and doing it with our community and not sharing all of our gifts because it's ours. And I find it interesting that I have been grieving for 2 years alone. Yet I've been with y'all on Tuesdays, but I've been grieving alone because I was not ready to grieve collectively. It took me going to Tanzania to grieve collectively and finally feel. I, for the first time, had finally felt something. And I don't know if it was because when I was on the land that they said I was actually on the shoulders of my ancestors, 300 feet deep. I was standing on all of their shoulders, on that grass, on that grave, that I instantly woke up and said, hello. And I think that's the thing, is that we are so immersed in this rat race that we sometimes lose ourselves. And no, we shouldn't have to take the brunt because of the beautiful bronze color light of our skin. But we do. And you know what? I'm starting to embrace it. I embrace it so much that now I say no. I told a job the other day, they said, they said to me, they said, even if we offer you this job, you're not going to talk to us? I said, I'm being a mom right now. And they were shocked. I said, I have to be a mom right now. I don't have time to talk. Because why? Because now my priorities are straight. They weren't straight before because I was running the race. I thought I needed to run the race to take care of my children. But what I was doing was losing myself, and my children was seeing me acting like a fool, trying to do white people stuff when I should have been doing raising my children and showing them that they are always important and that this other stuff will be coming later. But I didn't know that because I was a young mom. And now that I've gotten wiser and smarter, I've now learned that my children come first, and this job is not going anywhere. If they really want me, they can wait. And so if I need to grieve, I will grieve. And that's why I left my other job, is because I was grieving. And I needed to take time to grieve and look at myself and really acknowledge what was going on. And I think that's the power we have, is that we have the power to say no, we just don't know how. Some of us don't know how. I'm a preacher's kid. I was always told that I was supposed to give rather than receive. And I was so brainwashed by white people saying, aren't you a preacher's kid, that I stopped telling people I was a preacher's kid. Because of my daddy. And I'm an adorned, I got my minister license, but I ain't telling the world about it. But you know what? I think it's a good point that you make, Sister Yaya. I think all of us collectively and individually need to find ourselves. And I think we do a great job doing it here on Tuesdays. I think we do it a great job when we walk away. I think it's important to look at the trauma backpack in your lives. And I really, really encourage you, if you haven't, to take that course that they have where you delve into who you are and how you've been systematically told who to be instead of what you can become. And I am becoming. I'm constantly becoming every day. And my grief is getting less because I acknowledge it. I have been practicing it, how to say goodbye. And it's not really goodbye to me, is what I realize. There's not a goodbye. My dissertation will be my farewell to my father, because then I've made my point and I've made that legacy. That is my farewell. Ashe.
Ooh.
So powerful, dear family. My goodness, there are so many beautiful comments in the chat. I hope that you all have had the opportunity to review what family has been saying to each and every one of us. There's one I'd like to point out before we close, from Elder Harriet Tubman Wright, who says, we are still here because the Most High has kept us here to serve our purpose of healing, empowering, and transforming ourselves. The Creator's master plan is unfolding perfectly. Dearest ones, I have had the ability to put our flyer into the chat for our following 2 events for Ancestor Month. I hope that you can access those accordingly. Valetta Molofsky, thank you so much for such a powerful presentation. And Nana Malaya, I'm going to put you on the spot and request a song to close us out. Might you be prepared to sing
Okay. And I also want to say that there's a understanding. I personally believe that we get what we can handle. And there's another proverb that I was taught, that what you resist persists. And with the song, I'll say, come to the light, beautiful light. Come where the dewdrops are shiny and bright. Shine all around us by day and by night. Love is the light of the world. Love is the light of the world. And Martin Luther King said that darkness cannot cast out darkness. Only light and love can do that.
Yes. Yes, I shall.
Ashe, Ashe. Dearest ones, thank you so much for being here for this amazing presentation with these two phenomenal women. Thank you for being each other's liberation medicine. Please, we hope you can join us next Tuesday for our emotional lunch break. In the meantime, please go forward, make good decisions, have fun, and remember there
I'll
are
put
people
my
that love you. Yes, Nana Malaya.
Jan, this is in Jerry. Did you get my email about Brother Calvin?
I did. I was able to glance at it in Jerry, and I'll contact him today. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
good. Thank
I'm
you.
glad to see you. Thank you for
Appreciate it.
being here. Absolutely.
Sante, Jan, and Jabari, it was a blessing. I appreciate you. Y'all both take care. Ciao, ciao.
Thank
We
you so
appreciate
much.
you.
Yes. And dearest
I have
one,
one question, please. There was
Yeah.
a mention, you mentioned a course.
yes.
The course,
Were
I'm
you
talking about Valetta, you mentioned a
Yeah.
course. And I think there's a question in this chat about what course were you referring to?
Yes, I'm in the Grief Contemplations course. It's a coursework. So part of my paper that I wrote, I added the information here because I just did a thing on grief on ancestral light. And it's called Grief Contemplations. There's a grief doula who teaches the course. I had told Jabari about it, but it's a course that you can get a certificate in, and it's about, I think you take 4 or 5 classes. So I've invited a couple of my colleagues onto here a couple of times, so maybe they'll be talking about it because they're actually getting the certificate in it, and I'm not.
Could you invite me?
To the grief contemplation. It's in the doctorate program, and you already have a doctorate. Maybe I can ask her if she can be a guest speaker.
Okay.
I'll talk to her and ask if she can be a guest speaker.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
And dear ones, I just also want to point out your attention that Nana has put her phone number, her contact information in the chat. And so please, keep that to yourself because she has shared it in this private sacred space. Should you like to share it with others, please let her know by text first. Thank you.
All right.